CDIO and NT and NU. And what we have done during the last 2 years is to take a peer evaluation approach that was developed at DTU and then applied it to evaluate, peer evaluate programs in the different universities. So to make a cross-examination. And the background for this is that during the last 30 years or so there has emerged a major amount of quality assurance systems that have basically come from the government or from the EU and focusing on accountability. The government wants to know that the educational programs that are offered by universities are good enough. Good enough for the profession, good enough for the students. And there is a bit of standardization in how they look, but their main purpose might be to hold sort of universities accountable, and if we don't meet those standards, they will take away the right to award a particular degree. In Sweden that has happened quite a lot for teacher education as well as for nurse education and so forth. So there is some, what you could say, bite in that kind of evaluations. But you can also say that there are a number of limitations or disadvantages with that kind of evaluation. There's a lot of focus on documentation, right? You have to put together a large information package for the evaluators. Still, there is only a threshold requirement, right? You pass or you fail. You might get a sort of acceptance, but there's not so much analysis of the results or the reasons for particular results. It might be that you are not a good program because you're not accepting good students. It might be also that you have a good result, but you cannot explain why. So that might not give you very much feedback for an improvement process. The frameworks are general in nature, sort of should be applied to every program across the entire university sector, at least the variant that is used in Sweden. And then there are accreditors that are knowledgeable, sort of maybe in engineering in general, but not necessarily in mechanical engineering or electrical engineering or chemical engineering. So there is really so much insight that they can get from the material that a specific program presents. There is little time for dialogue. You put together the sort of documentation, the panel comes to your school, you're inquisited for an hour or so, and that's the end of it, right? So there's not so much talking or discussing in that thing. And you might say that they foster an attitude of avoiding criticism. Okay, maybe we know that we are not so good at this, but if we say that in the self-evaluation package, we will get beaten up for that. So maybe we keep quiet instead and pretend that everything is fine and hope that the evaluation goes through anyway. So there are a number of limitations, and ultimately they say that, well, maybe these kind of frameworks are not so powerful when it comes to improving a program beyond that initial threshold, and then we should be looking for something else. And we have been looking into peer evaluation as an approach to do that. So I'll discuss what we have done. That was a little bit of background. I'll say a few words about peer evaluation, in particular the model that we have developed and how we have applied it. We'll discuss a few of the reactions we have gotten to it from program directors who have taken part in the peer evaluations. And towards the end, I'll discuss how it can fit into the overall quality system of a university. But if we start in the end of discussing what is peer evaluation then, well, if you find this definition, and I think I probably stole this from somewhere too, and it is not on the slide there, so I will do the same thing as the previous speaker did and say that, well, I am sorry. Peer evaluation is a process of self-regulation by evaluation involving qualified individuals within the relevant field, as a definition. So, and that would give the possibility to focus the evaluation on selected relevant issues, right? If you come from industrial design engineering and you speak to a peer industrial design engineering, well, these are the hot topics within our subfield of engineering, right? So we can discuss something that is important to us rather than something that is sort of important in general. It enables an open discussion where you can admit your weaknesses. Well, maybe we don't really have any good program goals. We should work on that, but rather than sort of defending ourselves that someone might criticize. And it gives you a bit of ownership of the process, rather than coming with a governmental quality assurance framework and this is what you're going to do now, sort of keep up or keep shut or whatever you say. So you may customize it a bit, say, well, this is how we want to do it at this time frame and so forth. So that might be something that is perceived as much more. And then again, if the peer evaluation process also is mutual, so if the industrial design and engineering program at Chalmers works with the same one at NTNU, you can not only be evaluated yourself, but you can also go to the other place and see what they are doing, get inspired. And that can also provide you some additional things that cannot come up from a governmental quality assurance activity. And another reason might be that this can be the starting point for collaborations. Okay, now we went to see this other program and say, well, we are doing a lot of interesting things. They are too. Maybe we should start a student exchange program or collaborate on research or other things. So that's another potential benefit. So, but at the end of the day, you might not want to make this totally disparate from what the government needs. So there might be that you have two different things going on. Now we do this for ourselves with our peers, and then we have to do this other thing for the government. Some sense of kind of alignment would also be essential. But we'll come back to that. But I'll introduce our process, the one that we have developed. And then we'll see if this... That's the button I should pick on. Well, there is a process here. We'll start with some planning in a kickoff meeting. And then the first major part of work done by the program is to do a self-evaluation report. We have some support for that. I'll go into exactly what they're doing. After writing the self-evaluation report, it is sent to the peer. They read it, and then there's an evaluation meeting where they discuss the contents of this. You present, you discuss, defend, and so forth, argue. After that, the other program or the peer program would write a peer evaluation report reacting to your program. And that is used again by the first program to make an action plan. Right? So there has to be a response to the criticism that is in the peer evaluation report in forms of an action plan. There's a final meeting with some follow-up. And then, of course, we implement the ideas. So that is the basic framework that we have. Just to show a little bit of what goes into the self-evaluation report, you can see that there is certainly something which is quite similar to what is expected from the self-evaluation in a governmental quality assurance as well. A report which discusses the objectives of the study program, the program and the course design, training of engineering competencies, how education is delivered, what kind of continuous development or quality assurance framework there is in form of course evaluations and so forth. And in addition to that, we gather some quantitative data on enrollment, graduates, completion rates, number of international students, number of international teachers, number of teachers with pedagogical education, tuition fee rates, international ranking, and so forth, trying to make a more comprehensive picture. So that is what is sent to the peer review. And then the other reports are aimed at being kept at a rather condensed and short format. So the peer evaluation report, which is based on a self-evaluation and discussion from the site visit, might be 2 or 3 pages long. And then each program will write an action plan, perhaps also in 2 or 3 pages, that says that, well, we read this and now we're going to do this and when. So that is the model that we have developed. We've applied it in 2 cycles. So we ran one the year before, starting in 2009 with 3 master programs. And now we have another run with 4 combinations of master programs again. From the NT Nordic Five Tech schools, we've evaluated industrial ecology, environmental engineering, mobile computing, computer science, biotech, industrial design, industrial economy, wireless sectors. So we have experience from 7 different evaluations. And what have the reactions been? Well, we have done evaluations after the project runs, but have also done interviews with the program directors who were involved in the self-evaluation. And what are they telling us? Well, they are telling us that self-evaluation was time-consuming but worthwhile. So it turns out that none of the program directors had any experience of self-evaluation prior to writing this self-evaluation report. So it can be expected that it's going to take some time to complete. But they also felt that, well, there were too many and too difficult questions. And a response or a suggestion was that, well, prior to making this self-evaluation, you should do some more condensed analysis, a SWOT analysis or something like that. Say, well, these are the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threat. We use that to focus the self-evaluation. Not going through 20 or so questions, but maybe it's more interesting to look at 10 or so, or an even smaller number. So that could be a sort of a way of making the peer evaluation quicker, or self-evaluation quicker. On the other hand, you might lose the component that prepares for a national evaluation if you sort of take away aspects that are important there. But this was something that the program directors told us. They also felt that the peer evaluation process worked well, that there was a good match between programs, and that the setup that we have was efficient with 3 meetings and a bit of time in between them. I think they confirmed our hopes that there would be an open dialogue and a constructive discussion during the meetings, and also that this could start as the roots for some kind of a relationship that will build over time and perhaps form for future student exchange or research collaborations or other things that are essential for the long-term development within the Nordic Five Tech group, for example. So I can also say, on a sort of personal note, as a project leader for this whole thing, it was not necessarily easy to put together the programs, right? To find interested programs and to match them up with another program of the same nature at the same school. So that is something that we as a project management had to put quite a lot of effort into, sort of preparing for the thing and providing the opportunities for a good match. So there was some preparation that went into that they didn't see. The program director said that the international nature of this peer evaluation provided some unique input, and especially in comparison with, say, doing peer evaluation within the same school. If 2 programs that Chalmers had teamed up, industrial design engineering versus industrial ecology, they could have done a peer evaluation, certainly, and I think made some comments maybe on some things, but it would not be as specific as if another program in industrial design engineering comes to Chalmers and has a look at what they are doing. Understanding a bit of the role of human factors or aesthetics that are essential for industrial design engineering. So this is something that is difficult to get in another way. They also said that it could also be useful to still have some better idea of the national constraints. What is engineering education in Norway or Finland or Denmark, so forth. They comment that the discussions focused on differences, right? So quickly dispense the things that are similar, and now we discuss which we are different on. You have a project course, we don't have that. Why is that, and so forth. And finally, they appreciated the aspect of coming home with an action plan that you take with you. So the program director comes home from this evaluation, and now he has a plan for something to implement. Some of the things that came up in these action plans for one of the programs were refined learning objectives, sort of a need to have a focus for the program, understanding a bit of overlaps and discrepancies. Another program came home with an action plan that says that, well, we need to revise our first period because that is too theoretical and perhaps too boring. We need to clarify the profiles for some of our profiles within the program. So some concrete plans of that kind came up. Now if we reflect briefly on how we would position this in our quality system, I think we reason a bit that we have an internal quality system that is something that we are running ourselves and deciding how it is. But we're also imposed some external quality systems, including the governmental ones. But I also think that the international peer evaluation is an external system that we can sort of design a bit ourselves, adopt a bit ourselves, and get that external input, which is really important for future plans. And then international peer evaluation is something that you can use along with visiting committees or taking part in educational networks like CDIO. So to wrap up and conclude then, that the governmental frameworks for quality assurance, they focus on sort of establishing the minimum requirements for degrees and applying peer evaluation methods, often evaluation that is more constructive, more focused, minimizes documentation, and can be used to build long-term collaboration between the programs. So we have developed such a model. We have tried it out on these 7 programs, and we think that it is a model that can be used and also customized and used in a bit of broader scale. So that is where we are now, and if you want to talk to any of the people who have been evaluated, they are in another meeting right now, but they are at this conference too. So thank you.